Uh, this is an interview that I've put together with Dave Harrington, who is also the board chairman of the Brain Injury Association of America, as well as the CEO of the Center for Neuroskills. Dave, thank you so much for your time. Could you explain to this conference audience what the Brain Injury Association of America does and is, and location and other aspects of that great group?
Happy to do so, Dr. Major. And first and foremost, thank you so much for inviting me to be here to talk about something that's very important to me and really to our community, not only being part of the Brain Injury Association of America, but even being on the provider side. So on the Brain Injury Association of America, we're a growing organization and we really have a focus in several areas. One would be on awareness of brain injury. There's so many people, even in healthcare, I'm surprised that brain injuries go undetected, which often ends up with people going into the correctional system, being left untreated, having long-term issues when they really shouldn't have to deal with those issues. But we're also looking at research and how do we better understand this disease and beginning a disease process, different avenues of treatment so that we can advocate for people to be treated for these issues that are correctable to a certain degree. And then also educating the communities in various forms. And we do this through the Academy for Certified Brain Injury Specialists, through the CBIS program, our Certified Brain Injury Specialists, our Fundamentals course, the Advanced Practices, and we even have a Provisional Certified Brain Injury Specialist course that people go through. We also go through advocacy. Right now, we're really making a big push for the National Brain Injury Action Plan. That's going to help the federal government to tie some of the various disparate entities together, that they have a more coordinated effort in brain injury legislation, and of course the TBI Reauthorization Act, and then also lastly prevention. So we as an organization, we have our plate is full with those key initiatives. And with brain injury, we're trying to touch the person who's been injured, their family, getting access to care, advocating on the legislative front. And this is an organization that's growing in power and numbers and influence, and I'm just so honored to be part of it.
Yeah, and it's exciting. There's been a lot of emphasis on veterans with the Department of Defense research, which is really a leading force, as well as athletics. Now we have this population that there's really pivoting towards the justice system. Have you noticed that pivot towards the justice system population?
I certainly have, and I think that in our space, one of the biggest problems we have is surveillance and screening. And it used to be thought of if you have a concussion, it's going to go away. It's a short-term problem. But even concussions are mild traumatic brain injuries, and a good percentage, 10 to 20% of people who have mild traumatic brain injuries will go on to have persistent long-term problems if not addressed. So when you think of all the people, even kiddos who are getting injured in sports or fights in the streets or motor vehicle accidents, or they're falling off the various scooters, that injury can set a trajectory for a lifetime issue of problems that can come up that can ultimately lead them to the correctional system. If we screen people correctly and give them the appropriate treatment, their life course can be changed. We have an opportunity. But even after they've been injured, and even when in corrections, a large percentage of people in corrections have brain injuries, they can also be treated. And this brain injury can come in many forms. It can come in the forms of aggression. It can come in the form of mood issues, anger, anxiety, depression. We really see this with women in particular. Women in particular have issues with brain injury, with having the anxiety and the depression. Many of them have the caregiver role, and a lot of them are less willing to seek out the help that they need. And we have the societal pressures for them to care for others rather than caring for themselves. And of course, there are the hormonal issues that do differentiate men and women that can have an impact, whether it's estrogen or progesterone. Those two hormones can be neuroprotective and really help the brain to protect itself from further injury. However, it's the fluctuations in those hormones that do make a big difference. So when you consider the neurophysiology and the hormonal aspects of brain injury, as well as contextual and cultural aspects of brain injury, often brain injury presents itself different in women than in men.
Yeah. And, I think you just hit all the points really well. Unfortunately, Dave, I think you're just as passionate about this as I am with with your excitement. And you're a clinician, so you're down in the trenches, and so I'm glad that you see these individuals. And just two last points. Has this science improved? Oh, have you seen it improve over the last few years, in the last decade? And if someone in this audience that's, let's suppose you have clinics in California and Texas, if somebody's maybe in Tennessee or Maine, are there resources there locally that they can tap into with the Brain Injury Association?
I do have a passion for this. Being on the provider side for over 25 years, I see the impact of people being able to reclaim their life and their independence when treated. And so I'm excited. It's mission driven work, and I certainly have a passion for it. To your question about the neuroscience, it's pretty exciting having been in the field for over 25 years, how this has progressed. Back when CNS, Center for Neuroskills, started, the conventional wisdom was there was no treatment available for people with brain injuries. And so they ended up in skilled nursing facility or homes where they would ultimately perish. And when CNS was formed, it was somewhat experimental. We borrowed theories from other disciplines and realizing that, gosh, you can rewire the brain if you put a person in the right context and give them the right environmental stressors, they can learn as well. And so it's exciting now to be able to bolt on the research that is out there on our whole treatment ecosystem, that we can now really get clinical efficiencies much greater than even 20 years ago. But when we even look at concussion, when I played football in high school, which I was not very good, fortunately, I didn't get a lot of play time. The conventional wisdom was you could just rub some dirt on it, keep playing, get back in the field. That wisdom has changed. Now we have the return to learn, return to play type of guidelines. And at a minimum, it's going to be 8 weeks before that person goes back. But from a neurophysiologic perspective, we know it takes 8 to 10 months for the brain to regain homeostasis. So even that factor alone on the neuroscience says, gosh, the brain is going to go through this inflammatory process. We've got to give it time to heal. So not only in the detection, but what this disease looks like and how it progresses and how it can be addressed is very important. But to your point, Dr. Major, it's access to care that's so important. And so where do people go when they have a brain injury when it may not be on their radar at all? The Brain Injury Association of America is a really good place to start. We have a National Brain Injury Information Center, we call it NBIC, where you can either get on their webpage, fill out a form, you can make a call, you can make an email, you can tap into the Brain Injury Association even through social media to be able to get resources. And the Brain Injury Association also has many state affiliates where they can redirect you to, if it's more of a state issue, we can direct you to those resources that are in your state. And if we don't have an affiliate in your state, we have other affiliates in adjacent states who can help out. So the website, BIAA USA, is a really great place to start. And that's a .org, by the way, rather than .com. It's a great place to start for you to be able to get those resources and get tapped in so that the Brain Injury Association can direct you to various resources that are of a person's specific needs.
Yeah. Thanks so much for that on-point excitement, and I think this is really important information. We'll be sharing that link, obviously, in the conference, and it's actually highlighted #1 in this article in Correct Care just last month. Best wishes for your continued success, and I look forward to continuing to work with you, Dave. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you, Dr. Major.